Alright, what's up guys? So here's the video I figured I'd do. I got enough, I think all 11 upvotes were good enough for me. So this video is basically just showing you that the car is done, you know, minus the tune, which will be like literally 1 week from today. But basically, honestly, like if you follow me on Instagram, you already kind of know what the hell happened, but I guess a little explanation, you know, further explanation is okay, right? But really, I just want to make this video for the homie who really helped me out in the situation that I pretty much put myself in with this car. I made some stupid choices, kind of felt rushed, had a time crunch, and yeah, no, things happen, and well, here we are now. I mean, I wanted to get a built engine with this car eventually anyway. I think everyone with an Evo does. So essentially what I like to say is I just moved up the timeline. You know what I mean? So instead of doing it years from now, it's, well, now. And shout out to the Reggie RS exhaust. Man, I absolutely love it. I love it. The busher sounded amazing, but it just doesn't look right on a Japanese car, in my opinion. So yeah, here she is. I'll just a quick little walk around, and I can I'll pop the hood here in a minute. I don't have a gimbal or anything, so it's pretty obvious that I'm walking, so sorry. I don't take any of this terribly seriously, as you guys know. All right, let me pop the hood, and I'll show you what's in the engine now. Okay, all right, so here's the engine. She's looking pretty good. The gold wrap, gotta go. I'm not a big fan of like the Iron Man color combo, the whole like kind of McDonald's thing, but the valve cover was not red when I wrapped it, but gonna replace that with some silver and then put a little slab of silver right there so the stainless manifold doesn't warp that paint. So the block and the head are pretty much all touched by Boostin. Before that, I had put some GSC S1 cams, some GSC lifters, and a Kigley HLA, and then the head was pretty much stock along with the block. But now it's got a, now it's fully built. The bottom end is a Manley billet crankshaft, ACL bearings, all ARP hardware. It's got Manley Turbo Tough I-beam rods, Wiseco 9-to-1 pistons HD, an SCE Vulcan cut ring head gasket. It's pretty badass. If you want to look it up, go for it. I'm not the most I'm a little nervous to do all sorts of technical jargon on this video, but it's a really badass head gasket. It makes sense in my head, but you know, I don't, plus for time, you don't want to hear me ramble on about a head gasket. But anyway, it's great. And the head now, Dev threw in some SuperTech springs and retainers while the head was open. We were just, because we were like checking over the head, because I did have an overheating issue, so it didn't hurt to have the head, you know, done over. And then we did a 3-angle valve job while he was in there as well. So I mean, that's pretty much everything except for I think just the valves are the only things that really haven't been touched. And then of course Evo 9 timing belt, all the maintenance is up to date, you know, all the typical stuff. And then the homie hooked it up jigs with a his old valve cover, and it's got the good breather lines. And we're gonna get a bigger catch can because it's not enough, and the lines aren't big enough. That was our bad. But yeah, so that's the engine. So it's ready to roll. It's not tuned, so I'm just kind of putzing around on it on the conventional oil at the moment. So I figured I'll put you on the GoPro and we'll go for a country cruise, because, well, that's kind of where I live. It's not the most interesting, but yeah, so we'll throw you on the GoPro on the head cam, and I feel like a ding dong wearing it, but whatever, you know, it's worth it. So, all right, let's roll. All right, I shot this whole catch you up story. I shot it. I hated it. Man, I either under-explained or I over-explained. I did not do a good job. So I'm going to redo it. Hopefully it makes a little more sense this time, and hopefully he's not going the way I want to go, because that will really not be fun. So we're going to hang out here for a minute and make sure he doesn't turn left, because the fun will be taken away. I don't think he is. Okay, so anyway, no, good. All right, so let's try this again. So the quick story on how in the world I ended up having to do this engine and have all this like downtime with the car, and you know how all this transpired was basically when I got the car in 2017, it had 42,000 miles on it. It lacked a lot of things. It It didn't have like an airbag computer, none of that stuff, right? Oh, he's going our way. Anyway, okay, so distraction, ADD. So I only say that because it'll play into why I think this thing was kind of like beat on. So for only having 42,000 miles on it, it had a really noisy head. And like anyone who knows Mitsubishis know, like especially the 4G63, our lifters love to tick, get clogged up, dirty, and make noise. So I figured that winter I would, you know, clean them out, bleed them, and, you know, take care of it. And the car was unknown to me when I bought it. I didn't know anything about it. So I did what every good Mitsubishi guy does. You do a timing belt, water pump, and you bleed your lifters. So while I was in there, I threw in, that's when I put the GSC S1 cams and then the Kigley HLA in there while I did the, you know, basically the 60K maintenance at 42K, because, you know, like I said, this car was like basically, the seat belts, legit, the seat belts weren't even bolted into this car when I got it. Fast forward from that, you know, which took me all winter to do because I worked like a snail, you know, and I hadn't touched, like, I hadn't done any car work in probably 5 years at that point, maybe even more. So fast forward to after, I think 2022 was the 1 month in June. That was the one track sprint that we did where I got first place, which is also on, you know, it's the one that I posted on Instagram. About like, and the car was running wonderful. Like, I was at the top of the world, man. I got first place in my class from getting either like 4th or 3rd. You know, I couldn't have felt better, and that was on the stock turbo, you know, 85 stock turbo, 350 all-wheel horsepower. And so like one day I decided to go to Walmart with it and just, you know, get some groceries or whatever, and it's ticking from the head again. Basically, lifter had gummed up again or whatever, got dirty, needed to be cleaned out. So I thought, all right, enough with these factory lifters, I'll get some GSCs. Let's just get the zero tick lifters, and GSC will match the camshaft. So, you know, I'm weird like that. So I did that, and I tried to pull the lifters out with that tool that could compress the valve springs, you know, from the from like the hat, and it just didn't work. It sucked, and I kept nicking the, you know, I was doing like damage, like literally, like this tool was awful. So I decided, well, I can't pull it without doing the timing belt, because, you know, to take the cam's got to come out of the way, right, to get the lifters out. So I ended up taking the timing belt off, all that stuff, basically doing another timing belt water pump job on the car to put these new lifters in. In my big brain, I don't know how I computed this in my head. Somehow I thought, well, this is a great time to finally get off the stock turbo. I don't know what in the world that had to do with anything. So in the middle of, I decided to order a turbo that is from Japan, that also needs to be modified to fit the CT9A chassis. I decided to get a Force Performance 18K, which they have to, you know, flip the center cartridge around to make it compatible with the CT9A, because that's a CZ, that's for the Evo 10. That took, I never even got it. It took so long that I just canceled the order. I was impatient. The car had been sitting from like July of 2022 basically till like August, just waiting. It wasn't like my labor, like the head was done, I had the lifters back in, I had everything there. And I could have put the stock stuff back on, but I didn't want to take it all apart again, right? So I had to end up canceling that turbo, found a rebuilt FP green ball bearing from what I've been told, reputable rebuilder. So I canceled the 18K, went with this green. By the time I got that, got it all installed, all the little odds and end parts that need to be done, blah, blah, blah. It was literally like, I think November, or close to. It was like early November, and winter came early that year, and we ended up getting real cold and snowed early. And essentially, by the time I got that thing on, I could drive it for like 3 or 4 days, and that was it. And it was time to put the car away, because I'm not gonna let this thing rust out. So summer of 2022, after that track sprint, was basically shot. So now in 2023, I schedule a tune for the new turbo at Booston on the E85, and that was in April. And in the meantime, I put a Grimspeed manual boost controller in it because I was running a manual because I'm old school. And then that's when I put the Chef built rear diff in. Got all that done before the tune. Took it to dev, tuned it at 28 pounds, and it was ripping. So, you know, it felt good. The lifters weren't making any noise. All that was all good. New timing belt, blah blah blah. I'm on top of the world, right? Got no lift shift running, and I absolutely love it. And then like after like a week or two, it starts to like over boost. Like it's hit 30 plus, tagging. As you can see, my gauge only goes to 30, and it was like burying the needle. I'm like, holy crap, how high is that going? Like that's flipping nuts. That ended up being my wastegate issue. This 25-pound wastegate was not a FP wastegate, which I thought it was. Did not have the part number on it where FP would. This wastegate was uncontrollable no matter what we did. The only way it worked is if you looped the line, right? And you just ran wastegate to the boost source off the J-pipe. That worked, but even still it was inconsistent. It would rise kind of funny. Like, I've never seen anything like that, and that was my first time having like wastegate problems, like ever. That ended up trying to diagnose that. Got to do pulls to make sure it's fixed, right? Couldn't fix it. Took it back to dev. Had to make another appointment at Booston because busy man. It worked again for like a week. Stopped working. Now this has nothing to do with the tune. This was 100% wastegate issue. Long story short, the wastegate spring was just too heavy for the amount of boost I'm trying to run. So 25 pounds is your base pressure, and I'm trying to only run like 28. Like it's too stiff for, like, you know, you need more of a gap in between your like wastegate pressure to what you want to run. So that ended up separating the stock head bolts, loosened. One of them was literally hand tight. Like I just put the wrench, or I put the socket with the extension in there, and it just literally came off like this. And then the other one was slightly less hand tight. So, as you know, then you gotta take that apart. So I put a new factory Evo 9 head gasket on it. I sent the head to dev just to get like checked over, just to be safe, to make sure like nothing got warped or hurt or anything like that. So head was good. While he had the head, he put the SuperTech springs and retainers in there along with the cams, which were already there. And then got the head back, worked my nads off, like from like June to like all through July. Try to get this head back on, get it sealed up, because that's when we went to the Tail of the Dragon. We had to leave for the Tail of the Dragon on August 1st. I legit got this car all back together like 3 days before we had to go. So I had 3 days to like iron problems out, blah 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 blah, and then hit the road for a 2,000+ mile road trip with my kid and my girlfriend, which that could be risky, driving across the country like that. But the car worked, and Jigs came by and helped me put that head back on, did the copper spray in the head gasket. The car ran fine. It ran really good. The boost was still an issue, so I figured just drive normal. You don't need to floor it on a mountain, so it doesn't make any sense to like take a car that made basically 400 all-wheel horsepower on a Mustang dyno. I'm not going to floor that on the Tail of the Dragon. Right. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that word. YouTube doesn't like that word. I may have to bleep that out. That is a very bad idea. How about that? But the car felt off. It didn't feel right. I could still tell something was wrong. The engine was a little less responsive than it was before. The turbo felt laggier. And it just didn't feel right, but it made the trip. So when I finally got back, well, I think I'm about to get lost. ADD again. I don't even know where I'm going. When I got back, the car felt weird. I had an overheating issue. Figured out what that was, whatever. And then I decided on the way back from Walmart again, because I go to Walmart a lot, if you can't tell. And I had my kid with me, and I was like, hey babe, grab the phone. Why don't you film me doing a pull? I'll put it on Instagram. So it was like in an industrial complex. She was off in the grass. She's fine. and I floor it, and it just felt like I was back on the stock turbo. It was slow. The boost was okay, but it was like, I'm sorry, I had put the proper wastegate on in between. I'm sorry, I had put a Force Performance 18 PSI wastegate after the trip, I believe. I can't remember. I think it was after the trip. Yes, it was. So after Tennessee, I put the 18-pound wastegate. The boost was fine. Devin did it again. The boost was fixed, but the car was slow. And when I floored it, it felt like a turd. And I was looking in my rearview mirror as I let off, and a big puff of white smoke shot out the exhaust. That's not normal for this car. It has never done that. It doesn't smoke ever. And I was like, oh crap. So compression test, all 4 cylinders were low. They were all below like the minimum factory threshold, cold and warm. And went to Action Auto Works, had Pops do a leak down test, and cylinder 1 was at like, it was down like almost 20%, and cylinder 2 was fine, cylinder 3 was down I think like 12 or 13%, and cylinder 4 I think was like totally fine. So obviously that's the rings, right? And after all that work I did, now I know for a lot of people the work, like just doing like a head gasket swap is no big deal, but like I work slow, I'm tedious, I question myself constantly, I'm a single parent, like, so I got freaking animals, I work long hours at a hospital, so it's like for me to like do stuff like that, it takes a long time. I don't have the best tools, I don't have the biggest garage or anything like that. Oh, that's pretty. So for me, I was, for lack of better words, I was devastated. I was just crushed that I had the damn head off. I did all that stuff just for the block to now be bad, and now it's got to all come back out again. And I was so emotional about it. I was so upset. I get way too emotional with cars. It's weird, but this is how I am. Like, I'm very in tune with these things. And I basically just wanted to give up. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I was like, you know what? I know somebody who really wants this car, and I'm willing to sell it at a limped price, at least in my head. And I went back and forth with my girlfriend for, oh my gosh, weeks and weeks talking about this. And my mom had to listen to me, my girlfriend, Jigs, poor you had to listen to me. Well, I didn't tell him about the selling thing because I knew he'd kill me, but I still was, he had to hear me complain about it the whole time. I decided not to sell it. I couldn't part ways with this car. I've had it for like, what, 6 years at this point? 6 then. 6.5 then. So I was literally, it was so interesting. I was about to reach out to Jigs and say, hey dude, like, maybe can we work something out with the car? Like, can you help me do the engine swap? Or, can we do it at your house? But I had signed a weekend contract at my job. He works Monday through Friday. I was working Friday, Saturday, Sundays only for 6 months. So I was out of the equation, basically, with that regard. And as I was about to text him, literally the day of, he's like, hey man, if you need help, he's like, I'm willing to, I'll pull your engine and take it to Boostin if you want. And then, oh, dead end. This is a dead end? Oh man, I'm so dumb. So he offered to take the motor out, take it to Boostin, have Boostin build it, and throw it back in. He gave me a price, because I mean, even if he offered this for free, that would not have been a question. I would never let anyone do this for free. So I said, hey dude, let's do it. Price was right. He was gonna get some money. I was gonna save my emotions and my sanity by not digging into this car again. And he pulled it out fairly fast. He is magical with these cars. He did it in a time that I could never dream of doing. He is effective. He did it amazingly quick. It went to Boostin. Dev built this thing. He built that bottom end quite, I won't say, fast. He wasn't speeding, but, his time frame was fantastic. And while he had the, he did the 3-angle valve job too in the head, because I had the head checked again. I think I already said that, but yeah, we checked the head over again because of the overheating issue. And now it's, this car's been running since April 5th, 4th? And now here we are. I'm just putting some break-in miles on it. You know, still got the crappy oil in it, just waiting to get the good stuff before the tune. And that's pretty much what got me here, was a bad wastegate and that turbo I had to send off to Force Performance to get rebuilt because it was bad. The bearings in that thing were bad, like, immediately. I mean, I ran the oil line off the head for the ball bearing like you're supposed to. I did everything right. I primed it. That turbo was basically junk. So that had to go get rebuilt in the meantime as well. But it's a journal bearing, and to be honest, I don't really notice the spool difference because it's the FP green. It's small enough, and it is their newer tech wheel, so it spins really good. I don't really notice a difference. Plus, with my higher compression, it feels wonderful. Auto boost, this car feels NA, and it's not even tuned, so that's fantastic. To end this long rant, to one of my best friends ever, Jigs, you bailed me out so hard with this car. I was just not in the right mindset, emotionally, you know, mentally. I did not have the tools. I don't have the know-how he has, you know, the experience he has to do these things so effectively and fast with such good craftsmanship. This thing does not leak a drop. I mean, just everything is perfect. You did a killer job. From the bottom of my heart, my brother, like, thank you. This car is back. MJ's back. I can't wait to get it tuned. I cannot wait till your Evo's done again. I cannot wait till we're taking pictures together again, at the track together again. We may as well make out at this point. This is getting a little sus. So maybe I'll stop it right here. But thank you again, brother. I wasn't gonna do this. I'm glad you did it for me. I needed to step away and take a break, and now here we are. We are fabulous. So thank you to everyone who listened. This YouTube stuff is hard. This is, to people who do this full time and don't sound dumb, man, mad props. So anyway, all right guys, I'll see you.